Every nation has its great pastime. For the USA, it's baseball. For the UK, it's football. So getting people to pay attention to a new sport is a tall order, considering there are over 8,000 sports in existence, which is why Formula One's recent success is so impressive. It's because one of the hardest things for a sport is to broaden its demographic, as people tend to get stuck in their ways, and due to sports are rarely able to diversify their fan base. And yet, Formula One did this, and I want to talk about how. I, frankly, took no interest in Formula One until I sat down and watched it with a mate last year. And he honestly said this was going to be a boring race. But oddly enough, this boring race resulted in me falling in love with the sport. As if this was a boring race, I was looking forward to the exciting ones. And it's clearly it wasn't just me who fell in love with it, as according to ESPN, they had 548,000 people tune in to watch Formula One in 2019, and in 2021, that figure raced to 934,000 views. That's a brilliant increase in a year, so of course I wanted to learn more. This is me, a new fan, telling you about what I learned about F1 so far. The basic concept is simple. People drive open-wheel, single-seater racing cars around a track. And some of these tracks are built for racing, like the Brazilian Grand Prix, and others like the street circuit in Monaco. Either way, the drivers and team have one goal together, which is to win. The drivers want to win the driver championship, and they represent their team, which is for the constructors championship. With that out of the way, let's talk about why Formula One is growing in popularity now. What is it about Formula One that keeps people watching in suspense? How do they make their money, and how does marketing factor into the whole picture? Starting off, how does Formula One make their money? Formula One dates back to the year 1950, with its first race on the fabled Silverstone circuit. But you could argue that Formula One in its modern form started in 1968, when a cigarette company called Gold Leaf sponsored Lotus, which is now a modern day thing to do. Companies get sponsorships and slap them directly on their cars, and they start making money from them. It's a really sensible practice, in fact. And the best example to show it off is with McLaren in 2022, where they slapped on some Google Chrome rims, some extra RAM slots, and a whole new livery to boot. So it's clear as day that Formula One and sponsorships have been an integral part since day one. And in this modern era, smoking is now banned in Formula One in terms of advertisements, so tobacco companies are losing out on a lot of money. However, they do own other companies as well, so they can slap their sponsors on these cars that are not smoking related and still earn up to $150 million. But what's more interesting is that these are visual advertisements, so you can visually see what can be sold to the society today, which is quite interesting in my opinion. However, the most lucrative sponsor in Formula One is unfortunately cryptocurrency. As many as 8 out of 10 teams this year has cryptocurrency sponsors. Crypto is even more lucrative for Formula One than smoking, as crypto company Bytebit reported an insane $150 million partnership with Red Bull. That's $35 million more than the entire annual spending from all tobacco companies for the other cars. And even Formula One is striking a deal with Crypto.com, which is paying it up to $100 million to be the series' official sprint partner, and has also recently announced to be the title sponsor of the Miami Grand Prix. That's quite an impressive feat. But as we've seen the crypto crash recently, will we see it as importantly in 2023? Who knows? Now, Formula One may be very lucrative, but do you know what we really need to talk about now? The fans. If we base the current number of fans by the amount of viewers that watched on TV last year, that would equal an epic 1.55 billion viewers. With 445 unique viewers, those are the people that watched at least one race during the season last year, which is a sizable amount. But these races also saw as many as 2.69 million fans attend the races in person throughout 2021. So Formula One, in other words, is not an obscure sport. Therefore, we can easily describe its current demographic, because the average age of a Formula One fan is 32, which is fairly young to begin with. But Formula One has clearly been targeted by Gen Z recently. Formula One knows that crypto is a very lucrative sponsor, as a survey of over 10,000 people found that 43% of men aged 18 to 29 have used crypto. So unfortunately, crypto is actually a good sponsor to try and target the younger demographics. And on the other side of the coin, the female demographic as a percentage of overall viewers has grown a solid 2% every year, from 10% to 18.3%, pretty much doubling in the past 4 years, and there's no telling how high this could go. Overall, Formula One has seen a massive increase of passionate fans from 12% in 2017 to 34% in 2021. The increase in women's fans is definitely a part of this, but the bigger question is, where did all these new fans come from? Well, Formula One is like all other sports that have big personalities such as The Rock in wrestling or Messi in football, as Formula One is made of individual drivers that are worth rooting for and the teams they represent. Unlike with any sport, there's drama everywhere, and people love that, especially Netflix. These teams are all great, but if you want to see why Formula One really loves the sport, you need to look at the one team that stands above them all, and that's McLaren. Despite not winning any championships since 2008, where Lewis Hamilton won his first world title,
to become the 2008 Formula One World Champion. champion, Lewis Hamilton.
McLaren topped the fan favourite team charts in the F1 Global Survey with 29.5% of the votes, and their driver, Lando Norris, comes in second as a fan favourite at 13.7%, next to the winner, Max Verstappen, at 14.4%. The reason for this is McLaren is the second oldest team in the sport, which makes it a well-known name with a history, but it also had very memorable drivers over the years, giving them quite the pedigree. And since I'm relatively new to Formula 1, I asked my friends why they were so popular. And what they told me was about the legendary drivers Ayrton Senna and Alan Prost, and the MP4/4 car. The MP4/4 car is arguably the most successful in Formula 1 history, driven by Senna and Prost, who are arguably the two best drivers in Formula 1. Given that Formula 1 fans are attracted to high-tech vehicles, speed, and driving skills, the fact that McLaren's history is home to the most iconic car and the most legendary drivers makes it an enduring fan favourite. But McLaren is no backwards-looking team. It's also a very modern team that knows how to use the power of memes too. And there's no better example of that comes from their driver, Lando Norris.
That is P4. Well done. Great job.
All right, nice job. Were the fireworks for me?
They can be.
Lando Norris is frankly a lovable guy who embodies a Gen Z attitude. He's 22 years old and has everyone fangirling guying over him like he's a K-pop star. Lando Norris is also the only driver to have a vlog and a Twitch channel. And with all these accolades, he's still just a mere child, being 10 years under the average age of a Formula 1 fan. And because of this, Lando is helping Formula 1 pull in new fans. And he's helping keeping the average age demographic from getting any higher. And they're doing this by him and his teammate Daniel Ricciardo creating great content for social media, funny videos, and just downright being goofballs in every scenario they can be in.
Any such problems with yourself today, with your neck?
No, I mean, the size of that thing, it's huge. So.
Now, Lando is a great case study of memeing his way to success with Daniel Ricciardo, but memes are not the only reason Formula 1 is doing well. Truth is, it's an intrinsically interesting sport to watch, and a lot of it can be chalked up to one simple fact, and that it's dangerous, and that adds to a lot of the excitement. No sport is 100% safe, that's guaranteed, but Formula 1 feels extra dangerous, as these high-tech cars are going over 200 miles per hour, making it a very risky sport, and unfortunately, Formula 1 claimed a lot of lives in the early days.
In the 70s, so it was a very dangerous sport. Every year, at least one guy got killed. Sometimes 2 out of 18 drivers. So you had to make up your mind before, do you want to take the chance or don't you? And I was able, like all the others at the time, to do that, to drive right on the edge and try to stay alive.
But it wasn't until 1994 where the sport was shaken to its foundation by a tragic weekend. If you ask any Formula 1 fan today what was the worst year of the sport, most people would say 1994 due to the death of Roland Ratzenberg and Ayrton Senna. These beloved drivers died in separate crashes in the San Marino Grand Prix, and it cast a dark shadow over the sport, one they would never want to repeat. Formula 1 vowed to change its ways. It beefed up safety regulations and changed some rules. Multiple safety precautions have been implemented, like the addition of headrests in 1996, accidental data recorders in 1997, wheel tethers in 1999, and 8 other safety features and changes intended to make the sport safer have also been implemented over the years. And to showcase all these safety regulations in motion with these cars, we should look at the 2007 Robert Kubica crash in the Japanese Grand Prix. Now, looking at this crash, it's an absolutely devastating one that only took out one car, which is frankly amazing in itself. But also, Robert Kubica only suffered a slight concussion and a sprained ankle going over 300 miles an hour, suffering 75 Gs. But you know what the crux of it is? Formula 1 needs to feel dangerous to be fun. That's why it's exciting. It's like the sound of the engines, which some people love in the V8 era, and to how they are quite silent now in the hybrid era. But you can't have a sport where your drivers are continually put at risk, even though they are by driving these really fast cars. But Formula 1, through their safety improvements, have dramatically improved the safety of the sport without compromising what makes it awesome. Like NASCAR did with the implementation of restrictor plates, because that was a very scary era of NASCAR. But the feeling of danger is nothing new. What really propelled Formula 1 into the mainstream was a docufied series called Drive to Survive, which massively boosted Formula 1's fame. Formula 1 had everything it needed to go viral. It's exciting, it's got memeable stars, and it's got a long history to draw from. The Drive to Survive series started in 2019, the collaboration between Netflix and Formula 1 to document the behind-the-scenes drama of Formula 1. And in the 2021 Global F1 Fan Survey, President of Motorsport Network James Allen said, "It was no secret that Formula 1 had been struggling for years to attract younger fans and females especially, and this survey speaks volumes about how the new F1 management team's digital-first approach and the funnel effect of projects like Netflix, Drive to Survive, are engaging a new generation of passionate fans. And it's working because now Formula 1 has the greatest proportion of under-25s of all global sports leagues, with the exception of the NBA. That's massive, according to the research and analytical director Matt Roberts, that is. However, it's not all good news. The series has declined rapidly in quality on Rotten Tomatoes, rating at 91% from season 1 all the way down to an abysmal 14%. Even though the series is still doing its job to bring Formula 1 to a new fan base, it hasn't done well consistently due to how Netflix is portraying its drivers and rivalries. But at this point, it may very well not matter. The Drive to Survive series at its peak may have been enough to propel Formula 1 to the spotlight, and this can be seen by looking at their Twitter page, as it has 8.7 million followers. That's a great number, and we can thank Netflix for that too. And the team and drivers have a significant presence too on their own social media sites. They share artwork of the upcoming races, new helmet designs, and much more, including cats and memes. Oh, there's a lot of memes, which you can also find on Formula Dank. They all love to get in on the memes and ribbing each other during the race, after the race, and before the race. There is a lot of banter going on. Even if the Drive to Survive series continues to jump the shark, Formula 1 has built up a powerful media presence of its own by now. This in turn betters position the sport to keep up with changing times. Speaking of which, it is doing so. As we know from the demographic of its audience, it's dominated by males and on the grid as well. Albeit it's very diverse in its nationalities, Formula 1 could benefit from being more diverse in other areas, as the goal to get more Gen Z viewers is the need to understand that it's a very diverse group. As according to Pew Research, 1 in 4 Gen Zs are Hispanic, 40% are black, 6% are Asian, and 5% are some other race or 2 or more races. But the sport is flexible, and it is changing its ways that feel natural. For example, in June 2020, Mercedes opted to switch from a silver to a black car. In keeping with the times, the move was said to be a stand against racism and discrimination in all forms and a public pledge to further improve the diversity of our team and our sport. And it's not just a symbolic gesture too. Their driver, Lewis Hamilton, who runs the Hamilton Commission, researched the underrepresentation of black people in UK motorsports and has pointed out possible solutions. So the playbook is there, and now it's time to see how far Formula 1 goes with it. Now it's worth considering the other representation problem Formula 1 has, which is the lack of women in Formula 1. Now, I'm not going to talk like I know everything about Formula 1 and how female representation can be improved, but I asked my friends who have been Formula 1 fans for a very long time, and they introduced me to the first idea of grid girls. Basically, in 2008, a business was established to supply female exhibition models to sports like UFC, boxing, and yes, Formula 1. Formula 1 used grid girls exactly like all other sports as a sponsorship model and attracting an audience both male and female. But this stopped in 2018 because they no longer believe the practice is appropriate or relevant to Formula 1 and its fans old and new across the world, and that's a quote directly from Formula 1. Still, there is a remaining issue that I hope Formula 1 finds a way to address, namely while phasing out grid girls help reduce the appearance of sexism, it introduces an interesting dilemma. Some women work their way from grid girl positions to jobs like reporters and presenters in F1. I'm thinking of Milena Kona, who started as a grid girl and climbed all the way to team manager, and Amy Dargan, who is now a reporter for MotoGP. But don't take my word for it. There are a lot of arguments for and against grid girls, but here's someone who is a racing driver who is actually for grid girls.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Jackson. I'm a racing driver, TV presenter, and motoring journalist for those that do not know me. I have been on several radio stations this morning and yesterday evening speaking about grid girls. And much to a few people's surprise, I am actually in favour of grid girls. And the reason for that is because I believe that the modern woman should have a choice, and that's certainly the direction that we were going in, and I think this is a backward step. And the reason why I think it's a backward step is because we are taking the choice away from these women.
Now this is just a segment of her video, and I'll link the entire video in the description down below, but I welcome you to check it out, and also any points that are against grid girls too, because it's a controversial subject and one that is worth looking into. But they're also going beyond that too. In 2018, Formula W was launched. It consists of all women drivers and is a good step towards bringing women back into Formula 1, but they have been absent as drivers since the early 1960s. And according to the Global F1 Fan Survey, it is followed by 12% of Formula 1 fans, and it is clearly concise with a sharp rise in female fans overall. And, just as I was recording this video, Formula 1 announced an F1 Academy, a new all-female driver series for 2023, which is a fantastic step in the right direction, as the F1 Academy to develop and prepare young female drivers to progress to higher levels of competition, including Formula W, Formula 1, Formula 2, and Formula 3. This is exactly what people were looking for to have more representation of women in Formula 1. Whether you think Formula 1's changes are for the better or not is up to you, but there are certain evidence of willingness to do things differently, which is commendable in a world of sports that is often steeped in dated traditions. So let's wrap this up. Formula 1 has all the makings of a fantastic popular sport. It's exciting, it's dangerous, and it's got stars who can draw attention to it, both young and old. But what really pushed Formula 1 to mainstream was that Netflix series Drive to Survive. Whether you agree with it or not, it pumped those numbers up. This old sport has been revitalized and reimagined in these recent years, and it shows no sign of stopping. The stars are young, the sponsorship money is rolling in, and the sport is going towards a positive change for the future. So Formula 1 is in a good position, but I'm curious to see what happens in the next couple of years. Will the median age drop? Will we get more female viewers? Will Netflix Drive to Survive actually be good next season? Only time will tell, but I'm looking forward to the next F1 fan survey and the whole new season in 2023. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, you can read the entire article on weirdmarketingtales.com, where we write about everything from wrestling to board games to horror movies to pop stars. There's always something new there. So please, take a moment to like, comment and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell so you can see when a new video goes live.